Hey YouTube friends, maskedbandit here with another episode of Conifer Slopes. This is episode 5 of Conifer Slopes. In today's episode, we get cracking on our very first coaster. It is a historical coaster dating all the way back to the original Conifer Slopes, from about a decade ago. So I'd like to remind you to follow me on Twitter at maskedbandit102, and something new for, I guess, the maskedbandit brand is a Twitch channel. That's also maskedbandit102. If you're on Twitch, check me out there. There's also a link in the description, as well as, I'm sure, a pop-up here on the video. These pop-ups will be coming up. I won't be mentioning them anymore. I know it's probably getting annoying. So anyway, we're about to jump into the time lapse of the coaster and the surrounding area. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I will see you on the other side of this cut. Alright, so we're here and we're building this wooden coaster, which will be named Hawk after much consideration, I guess you could call it. I decided to go ahead and give this coaster the name the original wooden coaster had in the original Conifer Slopes. That would be Hawk. In every version of Conifer Slopes, there has been a wooden coaster near the front of the park, and it always had the name of a bird of prey. We had Hawk, and then we had Osprey. Is Osprey a bird of prey? I think so. Either way. And then we had Falcon. And now we're back to Hawk. Because, well, I did some looking. And none of the other bird names were giving me any good vibes. So I said, screw it. We'll just call it Hawk again. And it's actually kind of nice to be like, alright, cool. Kind of more old school about it. And speaking of the old school, I went way back. I went in the way back machine to try and find pictures of the original Hawk, and I found one or two that were worth showing you. And so those are coming up on the screen now, and hopefully you realize how awful I was. Those were some of the first pictures that I ever showed anybody of my Roller Coaster Tycoon playing. Yeah, they were not great. Not great by a long shot. And oh, by the way, Photo Bucket, where I used to have all my images, I've since migrated to Imager. But anyway, Photo Bucket, what a hot pile of garbage that site's become. Holy cow. Just ads everywhere and just slow loading, and good God, it's atrocious. But anyway, so yeah, those were my, that's the original roller coaster that this is loosely based off of. This layout is supposed to be a GCI, Great Coaster International, so it's got lots of air, or lots of airtime, lots of speed, and lots of turns. So that's kind of what I was going for here. I'm a little disappointed in the way it doesn't really die, but it kind of lets up right at the end, and I'm gonna chalk that up more to Planet Coaster friction than anything. And this layout actually is more similar to Falcon, which is the third wooden coaster to be built. Yeah, because this is the fourth version of Conifer Slopes. The second one was called Osprey. It was huge, and that version of Conifer Slopes was so far removed from the original. That's why it was abandoned quicker than the other ones. And I do have some pictures of Osprey, or one. I have one picture that I'll throw up there for you so you can see. And then here's some pictures of Falcon. I think I got one or two that are decent. And so now we move into, I guess, Hawk 2. Hawk the sequel. Fun fact, in the timeline, in the story of Conifer Slopes, once the Kane Company bought the park from the original owners, before they tore it down, they ran the trains backwards on Hawk, and they called it Qua, which is Hawk backwards, because I'm lame and I can't think of anything better. So in our video here, we're already going ahead with some foliage, and I wanted it to look foresty, but I didn't want it to look like the coaster was plopped in amongst the trees. I wanted it to look like areas had been cleared, and so that's why there's brush, bushes and rocks closer to the track, and why there's no trees like directly on top of the track. I think that creates a better ride. There are some spots where they're pretty close, and we'll say that there were like creative, people chose to keep those in, and I don't know. I was just going for something that looked believable without being too overbearing on the coaster. And the crazy part is, from the path, you can't see anything other than the drop, because it's actually built a little bit on a hill. There's a little bit of a dip in the terrain here. We're adding some slopes to our Conifer Slopes, so so that's what's going on here. Just continuing with some rock work and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's kind of what's going on here. And once that's done, this is the build of the station here. And this took way longer than I wanted it to. This was the third version of the station. If you watch Bro Coaster, good for you. I highly recommend you do. But in one of my build videos, I talk about how basically the way I play, I have to build everything 2 or 3 times before I finally feel good about what I'm building. Yep, same thing here. And actually, the way I'm doing these posts is really inefficient as far as spacing goes. I'd like to give a shout out right now to a guy, I think it's Bullethead is his name, and you can find him on the official Planet Coaster forums, but you can also find him on Shy Guys World, and he put out a great tutorial about how to build trusses, but you can use it for anything. And one of the things he used is make sure you have a griddable piece so that you could get even spacing on your trusses. And I don't have that on mine, which is why mine, I find out later on in the build, are not equally spaced. I used my eyeballs, which are obviously less than perfect. And while it looks good, it would have been better if I had thought about that. So he's also got another great tutorial all about peep behavior. It's really fascinating. How he found that stuff out, I don't have a clue. But yeah, be sure to check that out if you want to know a little bit more about how peeps behave, or if you want just a couple hints and tricks about how to better create parts of your building. Check out Bullethead's tutorials on Shy Guys World. I'm not sure if they're on the Planet Coaster forums. To be frank, I don't visit those all that much. So, but anyway, our station, I pull. It's supposed to be kind of rusticy. I mean, it's Conifer Slopes. That's what this is. It's rustic. I wanted it to look realistic. I wanted it to look a little low budget, and that's why it's just the flat tar paper there instead of a nice sloped shingled roof. Yeah, I kind of dig the way it turned out. Later on here, we start working on a ride-op booth, and I try to take some cues from Ryan, CTRSIND. I try to take some cues from him because he built an absolutely stunning ride-ops booth for us in Planet Bro Coaster. And it was great, and I'm finding myself using so many of the techniques he's used in this park and in all of my builds ever since I've seen what you can really do when you really try. And it was quite stunning. So here we are building our ride-up booth. And there's not much to say other than it was tedious. It was tedious, and at the end of the day, it's not as good as Ryan's. It's okay. It's fine. It's serviceable. And that's kind of how I it's awful to say, but that's kind of how I build. Like, I think it looks good. At the end, I think it looks good. I guess it could have been better if I tweaked it some more, if I fiddled with it some more. But I really just didn't really want to. And so I didn't. And so sue me. You know, it's kind of like, again, my style of build is big picture, general idea. The little nitty gritty details that some people love to just sit there and tinker with, it's kind of hard for me. And that's why it took me so long to get into Planet Coaster, because there is a level of tinker to this game that didn't exist in Roller Coaster Tycoon. And once you embrace that, you can kind of really get into the game. And so my tinkering level has really had to come up the last several months. And while I'm happy with where I'm at and I really do enjoy building, sometimes there's some tedium to this. And this little house, this little ride ops booth, considering how much time is spent here, you figure this is sped up 8 times. So I don't know how long I spent, but it was a ridiculously long time. Yeah, it's I don't know. Sometimes it's worth it, and this is one of those times where I think the tinkering was worth it. So I guess that's just a long-winded way to say that sometimes I get bored with my own building. Well, I'm sure everybody does, though, right? I mean, I would think so. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna try. Today is Wednesday. Oh, never mind. So pause. When this video comes out, I will have already done one Twitch stream. If you're unfamiliar, I doubt you are, but you know, I'm gonna try to incorporate some live streams on the channel. Well, in conjunction with the channel, I suppose. I'm gonna try and do some live streams. They'll be on weeks where I don't have Bro Coaster obligations. That would be tomorrow, and actually the next couple weeks, because we have our guest. We have someone, or the park's not mine, that's all. So, spoiler alert if you're watching this. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to get in trouble. But anyway, I'm going to do some live streaming on Thursdays when it's not my Bro Coaster build weeks. And it will usually be Conifer Slopes. Maybe it'll be a side project. Maybe it'll be a completely different game. I really don't know. But Thursdays work best for me as far as getting that stuff done. And so what I'm thinking of doing is streaming on Thursdays and then chopping it up and putting it on the channel in its own playlist. I'll make a live stream playlist, because those could be a little tedious, especially if you're not a part of the live stream, just watching someone interact with people, because it's all real time. And so we'll see how that goes. It'll be my first time ever. No, that's not true. I've live streamed before, but not by myself. I live streamed with Mike from Bro Coaster before, and so this will be the first time I stream by myself, and no idea how that's gonna go. Hopefully it went well. Hopefully there'll be a video up on my channel in a few days of the live stream. If it never shows up, you know it was a total train wreck, and it was a probably one and done experiment. I hope not. I really hope not, because that's kind of fun. So anyway, back to our build here. We're actually kind of finishing up the station. I threw those rocks down and started playing with terrain a bit, because the station felt so high. And I've seen some other builders really incorporate terrain in their parks, kind of in smaller chunks, and that's something I really wanted to dabble with this station. And then it's just shoring up edges, and I'm not particularly thrilled with what I did here. It's okay, and it looks better once I put the brick pillars down, but I think it could be better. I don't know, maybe I'll go back and revisit it, but for now, this station took me so long. Because remember, this is the 3rd time I did it. The station took me so long that I'm just kind of over it, and so I'm letting it stew for a while. So we'll do some light foliage work, and then we get into the custom sign. And this custom sign, the lettering is final, but that's it. Like, I want it to be more than just the words. I want it to be more than just the letters of the coaster. I want more than just HAWK. I want some way to I want to make a sign that is more visual than that, more graphic. So I have to do some research, and kind of like what I did for the horse head on Equus, do some research, see if I can't come up with something kind of cool, either a pair of wings or an eyeball. I don't know. Those are kind of my thoughts. Suggestions for what you think should go there. I'm always open to your suggestions. I got some great feedback on the lamps. And if you look back at the beginning of this episode, on the left side of the screen, you'll see the new lamps. If you missed that, pause now, go back, look at the beginning of the video. And that's the new style of the lamps, and I kind of dig it. So yeah, so we're here and just trying to get the word hawk spelled. And I realized that I spread it out way too much, but I think I get it all completed first. Luckily, it wasn't too hard to fix. It was pretty easy. I kind of like the style here, and I don't know, it seems to work. You'll also notice that, well, the color scheme for this coaster is kind of red, black, and white. And if you were paying attention to the pictures, Well, maybe not in the originals, but that's always been the color scheme for this coaster. The logo has always been white and black and red. And so I wanted to stick with it. There's my awful attempt, half-hearted attempt at an eye. And here I am trying to get some abstract shapes to be a wing, and yeah, that doesn't work. So anyway, this color scheme's pretty, historic, is pretty, traditional to Conifer Slopes as well. So yeah. And then after we finish the sign here, I believe we start doing some work on the queue. You might also notice that there is some progress in between in this time lapse that I don't cover. This has been about 4 or 5 days of work here and there, split up into half-hour chunks, hour chunk, 45 minutes. I mean, that's how I have to build with a full-time job and a full-time family. So that's why it seems to be like, holy cow, how'd all that get done? I try to cut out the boring stuff. Here, another thing I got from Bro Coaster, a height marker. I think that's awesome. I think it's pretty fun. And I actually did put a kid there so I could say, okay, well, it's about the height of the kid, because technically I guess these are family coasters. Anybody will ride them. So after that, you'll notice, oh, look, the queue's all decorated. Yeah. I decided to try and incorporate some television screens using some of the sci-fi scenery. Like, that's a really cool piece, that little, monitor. I like that. And then I attached the speakers to cover up the keyboard. But what I realized is if you attach the speakers as part of a structure, you can't change the music. And so they were playing some fantasy music, and that made no sense at all. So it took me a while to figure it out. I had to go ahead and place the TVs where I wanted them. Then I had to go and individually put the speakers on and then change it to the music I wanted. It plays one of the Western themed music. It really fits the queue as you're sitting there waiting. So it's kind of cool. I also put a big ass fence up there to kind of block your view even more. I want this coaster to be completely almost blocked except for that drop, because that drop's pretty cool looking, and I want the coaster to be a surprise. If you're wondering about POV, I do plan to do a special POV release for Hawk once the whole area is done. We got a little bit more to go. I want to dress some things up more. There's a part of the coaster that still needs some foliage. The queue still needs some work. The plaza around it still needs some work. So it'll be a while, but that's kind of where I'm headed with it. So you will see one of those. And then this is about wrapping up our episode here. So at the end of our time lapse, we'll throw in some glamour shots. We'll put in some cinematics, and I hope to see you back for episode 6. I don't know what we'll be doing, but we'll be doing something. So make sure you come on back. Have yourself a great night, great day, great whatever, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.